Our speaker this morning is April Farlow. She has spent 18 years motivating audience to get out of their comfort zone, speak up, and represent their values. As a corporate trainer, April has taught over 30,000 individuals and honed her skills to motivate hard-to-reach audiences. She is ranked in the top 1% of facilitators out of 3,000 for Dale Carnegie training. April delivers on topics such as vision, development, self-confidence, communication, presentation skills, and leadership. She has led to measurable behavioral change, impacting the bottom line in multiple industries. While speaking at a conference for foster youth in 2009, April was moved by the students in the audience. As a result, April founded Lydia's Place, a nonprofit serving young adults who have experienced foster care or homelessness. Today, she's an advocate for the voice of young people in their transition to independence. April lives in Athens, Georgia with her husband and 4 girls. All right, let's welcome April.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the chance to be here. It's funny when you hear your bio being read out, and what I really want to say to people when they see that is, I'm also trying to squeal between 9 and 12:30 when I pick my kids up at preschool, right? So I think it's really important to realize that we all are busy. We all have a lot going on. And when we were talking about what I could talk about today, I want to share with you a lot about Lydia's Place. But I also just want to talk about the importance of being available in general and what that looks like. Because as moms, it's really hard and we have cramped amounts of time and how we can make ourselves available to other people. And so that is a season that I understand very, very well. When I think about Lydia's Place, it has been an incredible journey. And a lot of times people look at what we are, where we are right now, and they give me a whole lot of credit, which I very much appreciate. But I wanted to share with you how we started and the journey to get there, because it's really a God story. It is so far beyond anything that I could have done, which was a prayer from the very beginning. But I didn't want to just tell Lydia's Place story, and I'll tell you why. Because a lot of people hear that and they're like, well, I don't feel called to start a nonprofit. Like, that's not my calling in life. So I just brought 3 stories to tell you today about making ourselves available as moms. The first one is definitely about Lydia's Place, and I'm going to put a shameless plug in there. We start our annual gala today, and so it is online, and it's an auction, and we would really welcome your involvement and getting to know and follow along our stories there. The second story I'll tell you about is my family, and the last story I'll tell you about is Girl Scout cookies. And somewhere in the middle, maybe there's a place where you could like to plug into it all. This is a huge opportunity too today, because I've been praying a lot about getting to share on a personal level and getting to share my faith story. So I've done a lot of corporate training. I go into companies and speak a good bit, but it's not about my faith story. In fact, when you know this, when you're working with a company, oftentimes you really have to avoid that part of the story. And I really been wanting to lean into it a lot more. And so this is an answer for prayers, really, to get to be here, and I thank you for that. I also thank you for what you're doing and the Uber cards we already got and the things that are happening with Lydia's Place. So let me start at the very beginning and talk about being available in terms of starting Lydia's Place. Because really, it was not the story that it looks like today. The way that it all got started is that I would walk around and I would go to different speeches, different companies, and when I would walk around, I would meet people. But again, it's a corporate environment. So picture this. I am asked in my early 20s, I'm living in Atlanta, I'm doing the single scene. In fact, I was newly divorced at the time, and so I was really kind of relaunching myself in that season. So I was asked to give a speech, and it was at something called the Celebration of Excellence. Now, I don't know if it was because of pride or because of money, probably a little bit of both, but in that season of life, I did not like it when I had to give free speeches, because I'm paid to speak, right? So it felt like I was like humbling myself to do that. Well, I got asked to speak at the Celebration of Excellence, and it felt like an absolute disaster when I was there. It was a little bit unorganized, and also I had been given a paid opportunity that I had to pass on so that I could go do the free speech. And in general, I had a horrible attitude about the entire thing. But I got there, and I'm teaching about how to build a vision statement. And I met these kids who were aging out of foster care, and I realized that they had hopes, and they had dreams, and they had a lot of hurt, and they still had hope. And and they just grabbed my heart. And this is a really great motivating part of the speech that I want you to hear. I did nothing about it. So they tugged on my heart, they grabbed my attention, and for 10 years I thought about it and I did absolutely nothing. So in that 10 years, I became a mom. I got married. We had a lot of fertility trouble, and I'll come back to that in a few minutes. We had a miscarriage, we had a lot of waiting to try to have a baby. And so I spent literally weeks and months on my knees praying that God would complete our family. I was a stepmom right from the time that we got married, and loved being a mom. I just knew that our family wasn't finished yet. So I kept praying, God, please, our family's not done. And in fact, my husband and I talked about what will it look like, do we need to adopt? Maybe we need to do foster care. And we just weren't in the same timeline on that and seeing what our fertility journey would look like. So I got pregnant, we had 2 kids, and all the while I kept praying, God, if we're to do foster care, either change my heart or change Kip's heart. But somewhere, you didn't put us together and not call us to do the same thing. So we have these 2 small children. I have now a 5-year-old named Anne-Marie, and I have an 8-year-old named Lydia, and I have a 16-year-old named Lauren. And so our family's growing, and I am walking one day at church. We go to Athens Church. And I was walking for the pickup, and you know this feeling if you have a young baby and they cry when they're waiting on the mom's desk, and the door's open, everybody comes to the door and they're sitting there crying. Well, I had a real clinger in my youngest friend, so she wanted me to be there right when the door opened, or she would scream and go crazy. So I would literally wait for the sermon to end, I'd miss the last song, and I would barrel down the hall so that I could go and pick her up. And as I did that one day, I'm walking down the hall, holding her as the other moms are coming in. And I remember as I was walking, all the kids were looking over the little fences, and they were saying, like, waiting, looking for their mommy. And all of a sudden, that 10 years before came creeping back in my mind, because now I'm a mom. And I was like, I wonder what happens to those kids when nobody comes to pick them up. And I started thinking, I wonder what happens when there's a drop-off and nobody knows their birthday. Nobody knows their allergies. And it, again, it burdened me, but it burdened me differently because now I was a mom. And I think this is really important because when I look at the Lydia's Place story, I think that my greatest credential in starting a nonprofit legitimately is that I'm a mother. People would often say, do you have a social work background working with foster youth? And I'm like, no, not at all. But I'm a mom, and I met a bunch of kids who need a mom. And so that's what I did. So, again, in this season, I'm still doing speaking all over. And so I went for my first speech back. And it was a class that I taught. It was over a 12-week period. And I met, at the very end of it, I was there teaching communication skills, how to get along with people, public speaking, and vision development again. So it's kind of a theme that goes throughout. In the very last session, the grandfather of one of the people who was in the class comes up to me, and he says, well, what's your vision? And I looked at him, I kind of laughed, thinking, I even said it in class, I'm like, I'm a teacher, I get a pass. And he said, no, really, what's your vision? And I said, someday I'd like to do something with foster care. And I kind of was blowing him off because you all will understand this. I needed to go pump. I was full. I was tired. I'd been up all night. And so I'm like thinking, I have to get to the preschool pickup for my older daughter. Like, I don't have time to talk about all this. I just need to get out the door. And he said, well, can you go to lunch with me? Another day. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. And so we ended up going to lunch. And when we got there, everybody would pass in the restaurant. I found out he knew everybody in town. He was like, yeah, we're here to do some James 1:27 work. I'm like, what is he talking about? I thought we were there to talk about training. And he was there to talk about widows and orphans. And so he was like, I want to hear more about your dream for foster care. And I said, okay, well, I said, if you want to know my long shot dream, I really think it'd be neat someday to build a ranch where kids who are older can go. Because it's not the babies that are keeping me up at night, it's the older kids who've not found a family. So I told him all about kind of how I thought about it and teaching a lot of the communication skills and the things like that that I've been training in the corporate world. And he says, you need to start a prayer team. And in this season of life, even that felt a little insurmountable. Like, I don't have the bandwidth to do that. But so I started, I said, okay, I can commit to just that. And so I started a prayer team with women who were not my closest friends. I very intentionally did not pick my best buddies. Instead, I picked people who were pretty interested in foster care or adoption. And one of them was a mom friend of mine. And you probably get this, your kids' friends become, or your mom friends become your kids' friends, like it kind of all ties together. So we'd sit in the front yard a lot, and she was actually in the adoption process. And so, again, our hearts just kept talking and thinking about this, and her name is Heather Wiseman. And so I told her about this conversation, and I said, I just feel like I need to start this prayer team. And she started gathering up women from her church, and we started meeting once a month. And I think it's really important for you to hear this. We did nothing except we prayed for 8 months. But I really feel like that 8 months of intentional prayer around this subject has made us grow tenfold since we started living this place. So I went with the intention, I'm going to start a ranch. And that was my dream. I'm going to bring it to Athens. And you may be familiar with Eagle Ranch. Similar concept, but without someone who has a family. And so that's what I felt called to do. And I kept getting meetings with people I really shouldn't have had time to meet, or shouldn't have had time to meet with me. Let me be real about this. They were very well established in the nonprofit world, and yet they would call me and say, how can I get involved? And it's because Archie Crenshaw, this guy who met with me, was setting up these meetings for me. And it's funny, when you're doing God's work, you get appointments you just really shouldn't have with people you shouldn't have, and so that's what happened here. So I kept getting meetings and telling people about this ranch that I someday, meaning forever from now when my kids are grown, want to build. And I kept getting told no, you can't do that. And the reason I was being told no is that legislation was changing and group homes are not allowed. And so they would just say you can't do that. And on one particular night, I had talked with someone who's very high up in the Department of Family and Children's Services, and they really would give me kind of the final no. You're not going to be able to build this ranch. And it was like crushing for me. Like, here's this big dream, and I feel like so much is happening with these women praying with me. I remember I walked outside, and it was a full moon that night. And I looked up at the sky, and I said, hey God, I tried, but everybody's telling me no, and so I'm out. I was like, I don't have any more options. But if there's something you really want me to be doing, then I'm available. And I went to bed that night and I slept so peacefully because I thought I was done. It's like, did everything I was supposed to do. And God has a really funny sense of humor. So that night, as I slept so peacefully, I got an email from one of the ladies on the prayer team. And she says, hey, I want you to know that I've secured the money for the legal fees for you to start the nonprofit. Literally, that night. And so the next morning I called her and I was like, Terry, thank you so much. That's really nice of you. Thank you for doing that. But I don't have any way to use the money. Everybody's told me no. So I guess you need to give it to somebody else. And she gets Sissy, the person who's donating the money, to call me. And I said, I'm so sorry I can't take your money, but thank you. She said, April, when God gives you money, you say thank you and amen. And you go put it to good use. And I'm like, all right. So again, I kind of go back to the drawing board and I just start praying, God, what am I supposed to do? Why do I feel called to do this? And what's happening here? And I remember it became very, very clear to me that in Athens, Georgia, there are 4 college campuses. And you can't help the kids who are under 18 because they're not released from the legal system, but you can help when they get to college. And so that's what started it all. I just started looking around and asking for ways to help. And I went to the University of Georgia, and I met with David Myers there. And David really helped kind of mold me into figuring out how we could get involved. And he said, what we really need is a dorm room, an emergency dorm room, so that when a student becomes homeless, they have a place to stay for up to 2 weeks. He said, we can get them long-term housing. He said that, do you know how hard it is when somebody says that they don't have anywhere to sleep tonight, to say, okay, we'll come back, and in 2 weeks we'll get you moved in. And so he said it would cost $12,000 to get a dorm room for the year, and we could house them for that 2-week window. And I was like, well, surely I can raise $12,000. And so we did, and we got a dorm room at UGA. And we learned a lot, a whole lot. And one of the things that we learned is that a whole lot of the need wasn't at UGA. It's there, it's definitely there. We help a lot of the students at UGA, but it's also on other campuses as well. We can't house a student who's not at UGA in a UGA dorm room. And so we started looking for partnerships and ways to house young adults who are experiencing foster care, or coming out of foster care, or who've been homeless. And I think it's really important to tell you how fast someone can become homeless on a college campus. And the best way to do that is to explain that when I was in college, I remember bouncing checks, and my parents squeaking in behind me to fill whatever it is, whatever I overspent on. What if you didn't have a safety net at all? And the kids that we serve, their needs aren't that they want to go out on Thursday night. Their needs are often that they have a medical services bill. Well, did you know on a college campus, if you get a medical services bill, and it's through the school system, and you can't pay that bill, it puts a hold on your class registration. And if you can't live in the dorms, if you can't go to classes, you can't live in the dorms. If you can't live in the dorms, this is someone who was on their way to getting a degree who is now living in a car, and sometimes they don't have a car. So it can happen very, very quickly when someone gets into crisis. And I just became aware of more and more and more of these stories. And so I'll skip a whole lot of the journey, but I'll tell you that God's done some amazing things. And today, Lydia's Place has 20 bedrooms in Athens where we house these young adults, which is pretty amazing to think. We were only 3 years old. So to be able to pull that off has been just amazing to watch happen. And we do that in partnership with Habitat for Humanity, and we also with the Athens Area Homeless Shelter. We have a big stretch dream right now, and that's to build our own building, but we're not quite there yet. And I decided today just to tell you the story of one girl, because I think it makes a lot more sense just to tell one story, because it's easy to understand that the problem is so big. To give you the big picture, 400 kids age out of foster care in Georgia every year. At UGA, typically there are 250 in a high-risk group who could become homeless or who come out of foster care. And so when you look at that, that's a lot right here in our community. And what I think is pretty remarkable is these kids are literally walking around and you don't know who they are, you can't pick them out. Because most people think of homeless people as someone who stands on the side of the road and has a sign that says, need money or need food. Our kids condition themselves very, very well to blend in and not tell anyone. Helen has actually housed 2 of our boys. When coronavirus started, we needed a place to put kids quickly when the doors were closing. And so they can blend in, they can go looked over very, very quickly. Well, one girl was just like this. She was 1 semester away from finishing at Athens Technical College. And I got a call there's a foster and homeless liaison on every campus. So I got the call that we had a student in need. And so typically when I have one of these calls, I meet the student or the friend if they're not in school at Kroger or Walmart. And I tell them, you have $50 or you have $100. Go spend it and I'll meet you back at the front. And we do that because these kids have been given forms their whole life to fill out, do this and you can get this. And we're showing them, just go get it. We're trusting your story. Mind you, we've already validated it through the school. But we're giving them we don't have to fill out anything, just go get what you need. But it's really an opportunity for me to watch and to see what they buy with that $100. So someone who is in dire need buys baby wipes because they can't take a shower. They're buying food that is non-perishable that they can get in their car. That's, they don't have a microwave, they don't have a refrigerator. On the other hand, someone who doesn't have as high a need might buy a shampoo that smells really delicious. So we can begin to pick out pretty quickly what the needs are. And on this day, I met this young girl who's at Athens Tech 1 semester away from graduating. And she was high need, I can tell you, based on what she bought with her $100. And I pack her up in her car and I send her on her way. And at this time, we didn't have housing. And I had to talk with her about what are the safest places in Athens to park your car when you sleep at night. And we just don't think about that happening. But it was definitely her story. So I kept in touch with her for over a year. And sometimes she would have housing at a hotel, like extended stay hotel, but a lot of times she was in her car. During that time, we were able to get her an apartment at Habitat for Humanity right at the end of that. She went back to school, she graduated, and with stable housing, you can get a job. See, the first thing on a job application is your address, and if you don't have an address, it makes it really impossible to go get a job. This young lady, with her degree now, she got a job, she got promoted. And I think it's really amazing what these kids will do when they get back. So I just brought it to show you. When she got her first promotion check with the difference in payment, she went to the jewelry store and bought me a necklace with a starfish to say that I had made a difference in her life, to say thank you. And it just really shows you that these kids, they want to do good, they are trying so hard. And so I'll give you my latest success about her. She was in the home purchase program through Habitat for Humanity when coronavirus started. They had to re-up her contract at the end of it because it took so long, the building process. And y'all, she makes too much money now to get to be in the program. She's doing great. And so it shows we're not here just to drag them. We're really lifting them and they will help themselves. Do you know she's one of the first ones to donate whenever we do a fundraiser? She's the first one who went to her company. She now works at a car dealership and said, hey, can you help sponsor this event? She goes and helps our other friends. So we have kids who are really looking to help other people as well. And that's the power of what I think is really a chain reaction that we have a chance to do. I'm a mom, I made myself available to God telling me you're supposed to do something. And now I have this girl making herself available to help some of her own kind. Lydia's Place doesn't just help with housing, we help with baskets. So I'm sure you're going to hear more about that in the spring. Because imagine that you are moving into the dorms. When I was moving in, my parents didn't register me at Bed Bath & Beyond because that wasn't a thing yet. But I had all matching, we had monogram towels and all that. Our friends are moving in and they have scholarships to go to school, but they don't have shoes to put on their bed. And so we decided, wouldn't it be nice to get a welcome basket when you go to school? And I'm really proud, from Athens, from this town, we were able to send out 250 baskets around the state of Georgia. Our goal is to get to 400 so that every kid aging out has a basket to take them into their next phase of life. We were able to get 250 this year. And so now when someone's moving into the dorm, they have a welcome to college, we're proud of you for getting here. Here are the dorm necessities that you need. And I feel like that sets them with an opportunity to blend in, if you will. Because that's really what they want. They want a chance to blend in. We also do transportation, so you guys have been helping with that. We do mentor programs. We have a clothing closet at Athens Technical College, which you guys have been helping with, and we'll probably get the chance to help with more if you would like. So again, finish college, no interview clothes. And so we're looking at ways that we can step in and just fill that gap. And that's the Lydia's Place story. It's pretty amazing when you look at what's happened. But I don't want to just tell the Lydia's Place story when I say be available, because I'm going to be completely transparent and tell you that if someone were to tell me the time that would be involved with starting a nonprofit, if someone were to tell me what's coming with Lydia's Place, I would have said I'm out. Because I really didn't have the time, just like you don't have the time to go and do that. And I don't think being available requires you to start a nonprofit. Being available can look really different in a lot of, in everyone's life. We have different opportunities. So I'm going to shift gears and talk to you about my family. I told you I'd tell 3 stories. And my family, in all this time, looks pretty different than we thought it was going to look back when I was praying our family's not complete yet. So remember, it all starts to tie together. I'm going again, I'm praying, God, our family's not finished yet, change my heart, change Kip's heart. And again, it all goes back to speaking in different groups that I get to go and talk to. And I was in Orlando, Florida. And I was speaking at a camp. And at the camp, they have kids who come in from all over the world. Some are very, very wealthy, and some are very, very impoverished. But it's a leadership camp, and it's at Disney World. And so I was there for a week. We're all moms, so you can laugh about this. I was 7 months pregnant. And my mom came with me on the trip to babysit me going through Disney World. She was there because she was convinced I was going to go into labor early, and we were, nobody was going to be with me. And so she's watching me, and I spoke every day for a week at this camp. And my mom just kind of tagging along with me. And my mom just took notice of another girl who was at the camp. And she kept looking at me, and she was like, I don't think she has much. I think she's someone who didn't come from much. And the reason she really figured it out is that we were at one of the water parks in Orlando. There's this huge bucket of ice cream. Like they put it in a sand bucket. It's ridiculous that anybody would eat that much ice cream. And Maria has never seen food like that before. And my mom said, well, would you like some? And she's like shoveling it in her mouth. And so my mom just kind of gets taken with her. And so everywhere we would go, there would be this girl who's from Nigeria. And she would just kind of be along with us all week long at Disney World. And so we started to learn more about her story. Did you know Maria had never ridden a bicycle before she gets in an airplane from Lagos, Nigeria, and shows up at Disney World. Can you even imagine? I just want you to think about that for a minute. She carried buckets of water on her head and lived literally was squatted in a wooden shack, and she lands at Disney World. So at the end of the trip, my mom's just been so taken with her. My mom says to her, Maria, do you have money for snacks on the airplane? And Maria speaks perfect English, by the way. Some of you know her. She speaks Queen's English. I mean, it's perfect. Better than mine. She says, a snack? What is a snack? And my mom says, here's $20, because at the end of Disney, that's all the cash you have left, right? And she says, get some snacks in the airport as you leave. And Maria looked at it. And did you know she wrote me from Facebook Messenger when she got back to Nigeria? And she said, would you please pass this message to your mom? She cried for hours on the plane because no one had ever been that kind to her to share $20 with her. She said she would never spend that money on snacks. She was taking that money back to her family. So picture, years go by, and Maria keeps messaging me on Facebook Messenger every year on the 1-year anniversary of the $20 gift to say, hey, thank you again, please tell your mom thank you. 5 years go by, and she messages me again, and she says, hey, I'm going to be coming back to the United States. This time I'm coming to Atlanta, Georgia. I wondered if I could see you while I'm there. The same camp has invited me to be a camp counselor this year. Well, Maria didn't know it, but I started following her on Facebook, and I said, can you send me pictures of you and where you live? What are your dreams? What do you want to do? I was selfishly planning a speech. I was just using her as like the main story of the speech to show that dreams can happen and kind of tell her story. She sent me these pictures that were unbelievable of her life and what she has going on in Nigeria. So I go to my husband, remember, the one that I had been praying years before, change his heart or change mine, and I'm like terrified. I'm like, I met this girl in Africa, from Africa in Orlando 5 years ago. She found me on Facebook. Is there any way she can stay with us for 2 weeks when she comes to Atlanta? Because I want to show her some college campuses. And he says yes. So she comes, I give the speech about her. My husband goes to the speech, meets her, and she comes home with us for 2 weeks. And on the third night of her staying with us in her house, Kip sits me down on her couch in the living room, and he says, April, an angel has landed in our house. And I don't know how this has happened, but she can stay forever. You go figure it out. And y'all, we had no plans, none. We didn't have a visa. And I said, okay, let's give it a try. So we kind of talked to our family about it, and we set up a GoFundMe page and said, like, what would it look like if she could just start school? And this is Maria. And our family looks completely different now. That was 4 years ago. And Maria we think of her as our own. My kids draw pictures, and this is our family picture. Maria is a senior in college, so she is finishing up her degree and will go back to Nigeria and start a school for the impoverished children there. And again, all we said was, all right, I guess you can stay, I'm available. And now she is in turn making herself available. So I tell these stories about how God's doing these amazing things, right? And it's like, okay, start this nonprofit, and now I have a random person from Africa who's joined our family. And as a mom, you're sitting here going, I got a preschool pickup, and I get that. I'm with you. So I brought Girl Scout cookies as my last story, because I want to tell you about being available. So when coronavirus all started circling, and by the way, my husband works for Walmart, and he kept saying, like, you need to go buy supplies because everything's selling out. So I didn't buy anything. It's funny now. And so when I hear that I'm going to be cooped up in my house for 2 weeks, which is also laughable now, isn't it? That's funny looking back. I was thinking to myself, I've got Maria and I've got these 2 little girls, so what are we going to do? And so I'm like, I'm going to go insane if like I'm just here in my house all the time for these 2 weeks, because I like a project, I like something to do. And around that same time, I got an email from the Girl Scout troop leader, and she says, we are in desperate need to sell these cookies because we can't have the booths anymore, and the troop's going to lose a lot of money if we don't sell the cookies. And I'm thinking, sure, we can get these cookies. And so, I don't remember how many boxes were left, but I said, I think it was about 80 boxes that were really made it to the break-even point. And I said, I'll buy that 80 boxes. And I decided to use this as a vehicle to kind of get out of the house and have a project. And so my girls and I, every week, we made a list of 40 families that we could cheer up during the coronavirus. And so we make a bag, and we would all write cards to whoever we were taking the letters to, and we'd take Girl Scout cookies and we'd drop it on their door. And I got more feedback. Oh my gosh, you made my day. I haven't seen another person in so long. Thank you so much. And what a difference it made. And I really started thinking about this season in life right now, because there's a lot of division in the world right now. And I don't think you can talk about what all being available if you don't at least acknowledge that. So I thought I'd tell you the last 2 boxes of cookies on one of the days. I was taking them to just people I knew, and I just wanted to, hey, I'm supporting you, I'm cheering you up. Hey, Mom, keep going. Should have taken wine, but I didn't. So anyway, on one day, I took 2 different, I don't remember how many, but 2 of them were to people who believed very, very differently about coronavirus. One was to one of our friends who's a politician. One is to one of our friends who's a medical doctor. And I can just tell you from reading on Facebook, like they saw the world from completely different perspectives at that time. Both were my very good friends. And on that day, I wrote cards, and to both of them, I gave the same message. And it was, thank you for serving our community. Thank you for all that you're doing. Even though neither one of them saw it exactly the way I did. And that's really the point I wanted to make today as we talk about this, is that we are in a unique season in our country. You are in a unique season as a mom. There are chances to be available, and it can be as simple as a box of Girl Scout cookies. It can make a huge, huge difference to other people and just showing up and supporting them. And I would welcome you to be available in your family and show your family what it can look like. And I would welcome you to become a part of Lydia's Place in a much bigger way. And I want to tell you that your family looking different doesn't necessarily have to mean bringing someone here from Africa. My kids' ball games look really funny. My daughter was doing basketball from Marcel. And I had different Lydia's Place kids got really cheap tickets to go to the games because she was in the halftime show. So I was like, does anyone want to go to the game? And so I had this row of kids sitting in front of us. And so my Anne-Marie had the biggest cheering squad there because all my Lydia's Place kids are standing up and cheering and being a part of her getting drawn on the field. I want you to know if you want that for your family, it's not just about helping other people. It's about helping your kids see need and that they can be a huge win for someone who just needs to feel loved. A lot of times these friends I'm talking about feel loved from my children before they feel loved from me. And it's really amazing to watch. It's true. They can trust a child much faster than they can trust a mom or dad who did their own bit of wrong. So you guys, I don't know how God's whispering in your heart. I don't know how you're being called to be available. But I thank you so much for letting me share my story about being available. And I pray that God intersects with you in some big way. I'm going to tell you what your next steps might be. Thank you so much. And I can take questions. I don't know if there was something else supposed to do. Perfect. That sounds great. Thank you.